Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is Josie's Point of View, where we focus on human interest stories from the Carolinas and beyond. Today it's Friday and it's November the 26th, 2021. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you're new to my channel, I'd like to extend to you a warm welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. I hope you find the information here to be informative. And if you're a returning viewer, by all means, thank you so much for coming back. You know, I always say the tide changes so frequently here on the YouTube streets, so you have to acknowledge where your support comes from. And I want to tell you that I sincerely thank you for your support. Feel free to like and to share this video, and I appreciate if you take just a second to subscribe to my channel and offer me that opportunity to grow. Thank you so much. And our story today takes us to Fort Bragg here in North Carolina. Take a look at the headline. And it reads, Army CID closes the case of Army Specialist Roman-Martinez. I'll provide you with a summary here, and as always, I'll place links to a few of the full articles in the description box. This is a case I have been following since its inception. I have done a few updates on the story since the incident took place in May of 2020, and I promised I would continue to follow this case until it was solved. But apparently, it appears we have encountered a set of roadblocks with no place to go. And regretfully, our hearts are breaking as we announce that unless a miracle happens, this is indeed the end of the road, the final chapter, without any justice for this grieving family of a murdered Fort Bragg paratrooper. And just in case you're wondering what has led us to this conclusion, we became aware last month, I believe it was around the middle of October, we found out that the Army CID, the Army Criminal Investigation Division, had closed the case regarding the gruesome murder of a Fort Bragg paratrooper. According to the report, CID indicated they had completed their investigation and had closed the case without reaching any meaningful conclusion and without holding anyone responsible for the paratrooper's death. But before we comment further on CID's position, let's take a few minutes and look back at the summary of what has led us to this point. And some of you might recall it was Memorial Day weekend of 2020. I believe it was the weekend of May the 22nd, that a 21-year-old paratrooper from Fort Bragg, along with 7 other colleagues, 6 men and a woman, they traveled from the military base at Fort Bragg to a popular vacation site in an area known as the Outer Banks. And the Outer Banks area consists of several small islands, and specifically they were on an island known as Cape Lookout National Seashore. They were there for the weekend. This area is very remote, and it's surrounded by lots of open waters and camping site vegetation, and that's about it. So they started off as a party of 8, but something happened on that first night because the next day was the last time one member of that party was ever seen alive. And approximately 1 week later, I believe it was on May the 29th, his partial remains washed up on the shore at Cape Lookout. And when I say partial remains, I'm referring to his head, and he was positively identified through his dental records. To date, his body has never been recovered. That young man was 21-year-old Army Specialist Enrique Roman-Martinez, a native of Chino, California, and he was assigned to the 82nd Airborne Division at Fort Bragg, and this was his first military assignment. He had been in the Army for almost 4 years and was just 3 months away from leaving the military and returning to civilian life, returning home to his family. We learned after his death that he was really excited about being able to return home and celebrate his 22nd birthday with his mom. And it's now been 18 months since that tragic discovery of his partial remains. And even today, family, friends, and even the media have continued to search for answers. There has been international interest in this case, and over the past several months, 2 major areas of concerns have emerged. And I would like to share what has been reported about them from various news sources. Let me reiterate that no one has been charged with the gruesome murder of Specialist Roman-Martinez, so everything I say is based on published reports, and I must say alleged to all of it. But even though there has not been any charges, there has been concerns about the actions of his 7 buddies, the 6 men and 1 woman who accompanied him on that trip. The first concern was why they waited 19 hours before contacting the authorities to say that Roman-Martinez was missing. We all heard the recordings of that 911 call. We all heard we all had the opportunity to listen to the recording. It was placed by someone in that party. We heard a male voice saying they had been searching all day and was unable to locate any of the Park police to get some help. That statement was proven to be untrue because there were reports of them racing along the beach and having fun that day. And around 3 p.m. in the afternoon, they were illegally parked, and a park ranger approached and asked them to move their vehicle. They were face to face with the authorities then and failed to mention that a member of their party was missing. It was several hours after that encounter that 911 call was placed. And the next thing we heard was that everybody in the group had lawyered up. And we said, what the hell? That seems awfully strange. It seems awfully strange. And even though it is very possible they had nothing to do with what had happened to their friend, in the eyes of public opinion, their actions seem suspect. And again, this is all alleged. And then there was the question about whether Army CID, the Criminal Investigation Division, whether they had the knowledge or whether or not they had the skills as well to effectively work this high-profile murder case from beginning to end. After some of the debacle with the Vanessa Gillian case at Fort Hood, I think people seriously started losing confidence in Army CID and its abilities. Some of the issues raised back at Fort Hood was that the CID crew was young, they were inexperienced, they were possibly overworked, and their level of training was also being questioned. So when this murder case from Fort Bragg about this paratrooper being murdered began to take center stage, many felt that Army CID was in over their heads, that they were drowned in, that they probably could not handle the job. So it was a great relief a few months later when it was disclosed that the FBI had intervened and would be assisting CID on the case. But many also believed the public's trust in CID had already been damaged, and they began to question why the CID had not reached out to the FBI sooner in order to make sure that the beginning phases of the case was handled in the most expeditious manner. And as the months progressed, there was absolutely nothing being reported, and some began to wonder whether CID was whether or not they had actually left the building. Were they even still involved in the case? It was hard to tell. The next revelation was the release of the autopsy report, and as gruesome as it was, the public embraced the findings and once again joined the family of the soldier with an outcry for justice. Through the autopsy report, the public learned that Specialist Roman-Martinez was decapitated. The findings revealed numerous chop wounds on his neck, his jaw was broken in several places, and his spine had been severed. And while any of these injuries could have resulted in death, the coroner was still unable to accurately specify how he died because his body was never found. So it was difficult really to determine whether or not they chopped off his neck and that's what killed him, or whether or not they killed him and then they chopped off his neck. Now, there has been a perception that this case has been in a cold file for quite some time because no one was getting any information, and we later found out the family was also not getting any information either. And then because after we found out he was decapitated, that was in August. Next thing we heard was in December was that Army divers were back up at Outer Banks searching for clues, and we said, this don't make any sense. He died in May. Why is it now December? We've had hurricanes, all kind of storms, all kind of weather. The banks of the rivers have been eroded, and why now are you now going back, Army divers, in December to start looking for clues? And then in the spring, in response, I guess, to reporters' request, Fort Bragg indicated the case was ongoing. Then all of a sudden in August, we heard the FBI had increased, or the CID and the FBI had increased the reward to $50,000. And then without any further warning, the middle of October, the news has been released. Army has closed the case of Specialist Roman-Martinez. It was stated they completed their investigation and they were not able to hold anyone accountable for the murder of their soldier. And just like that, it was over. It was over. You have this young 21-year-old Army paratrooper on a weekend vacation with 7 friends. He's brutally murdered, and 18 months later, no one is being held accountable. And unless there is a miracle, case is closed. This is the end. The investigation is complete, and CID has officially signed off. They have officially closed the case. That's what they have reported to the media. It has moved into the cold case files without any type of justice for this grieving family. How devastating. So where do we go from here? Now, a lawmaker from the state of California, I believe her last name is Torres. I think her first name is Norma, but I'm not sure. But I know the last name is Torres. Well, Representative Torres has sent a letter to the Secretary of the Army asking for a complete and independent investigation into the responses and the manner in which the murder of Army Specialist Roman-Martinez was handled. Torres wanted a better understanding as to why his buddies waited 19 hours before calling anyone to say Roman-Martinez was missing, and in the call they made a statement that he was probably suicidal, which seemed like even more reason why there should have been a sense of urgency in letting someone know. But most of all, they had met with park ranger earlier that afternoon because they were legally parked, and the park ranger had had them move their car to another location, and that would have been the perfect opportunity to tell someone that a member of their crew was missing. But it was several hours later, and we heard in the recorded 911 message, the caller was saying that we have been searching all day and we weren't able to find anyone. And we since found out that information was indeed not correct. Also, Torres wants to know, she wants to look at the manner in which the Army communicated with Army Specialist Roman Martinez's family after his death. Also looking at the military treatment of people of interest, requirements for soldiers to report a missing member, and whether there were additional factors that may have affected the speed of the investigation. I know there's concern about CID as well, specifically whether or not CID was really qualified to handle the case. And Torres specifically stated that the family had lost complete confidence in CID and their capabilities. Now, Torres also criticized the military for not evoking the privilege of those 7 buddies from leaving the base on weekends and after hours. And while there had not been any specific evidence suggesting that those 7 were involved in Roman Martinez's death, the representative stressed that inaction could have possibly caused them to return to the scene of the crime. And she states, these are just common sense things that you do when you when there is a murder investigation. So essentially there's a need to look at how the CID did what they did and whether or not they were acted in an appropriate manner. So that's where it stands right now, and I'm sure it's a very painful ending for a family who only wanted someone to be held accountable for the murder of their loved one. And I sure wish the outcome could have been different. And to the mom, the siblings, and all of the extended family members, we wanted justice for you as well. And we truly did our part to keep the story in the spotlight. Wish there was more. I just wish we could have done more. But we want you to know we never forgot about your loved one. Army Specialist Enrique Roman Martinez, the paratrooper from Fort Bragg, North Carolina. And I personally will continue to feel that the Fort Bragg leadership was a bit insensitive in their responses to you, really. This soldier's partial remains was discovered in May, and the Fort Bragg leadership waited until sometime in August to hold a memorial service. And it was done with such a level of secrecy that it angered me, because it seems as if they did not really care. It seems as if people were talking about it and people were talking about how they were responding poorly. And as an afterthought, they went together months later and pulled something together just to make sure they did not continue to look bad in the eyes of public opinion. And I hope that you too have learned a lesson here. I really hope you have. But don't think we, the public, are not paying attention to the way you're treating fallen soldiers and their families. You've earned a failing grade in this case, and I hope you will do better in the future. We'll be watching to make sure you do just that. And going forward, I promise to showcase this case on every Memorial Day weekend for the next several years, or as long as this case remains in the cold file. I still hope it can be solved. I hope there can be justice for that family. But rest assured, should there be any new revelation, any new information, any breaking news on this case, just as I have done in the past, I'll be sure to bring it to you right here on this channel. And that's all I have for you right now. Feel free to leave me a comment below and let me know what you think about this video. And by all means, feel free to like it and to share it. And if you haven't done so already, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to my channel by clicking on that red subscribe button. It's on the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. And if you click on this notification bell right here, you'll be the first to know whenever a new video is uploaded. I thank you for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.